everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Alyssa with AmadorArts, and today I'm going to be showing you how to sculpt a flower out of polymer clay and make it into a necklace. I'm also going to be showing you some tips and tricks that you can apply to other polymer clay pieces as well. So I hope you enjoy. So here's my setup for today. So I've got this mat that I'm going to be working on with my polymer clay, and then my polymer clay is all in here. And then I got this necklace cord at Walmart. It's 18 inches and it's with an extender. I got it for $2.88. You can get large packs as well on Amazon for a lot better price. They're just not usually as high quality. So I like these ones because they don't rust as easily. And then I've got this back that I'm going to be making the flower onto. And then I've got this ring here to attach that back onto the necklace. And then I have all my tools here that I'm going to be using. So I've got some with the silicone heads that I'm going to be sculpting my flower with. And then I've got this for the base of the flower. And then I have an X-Acto knife as well that I like to use to cut the pieces of polymer clay. And then I just got some wire cutters to use for that ring because it's hard for me to open them up myself. I have to use 2 wire cutters to do it. And then the last thing I'm going to be working with is I actually have a little toaster oven that I'm going to be baking my clay in, and I don't have that in the frame because I'm going to be working with that outside. So I've decided I'm going to be doing a pink flower with a brown center. So I've got my colors out here. I'm going to have to mix brown because I don't have any brown at the moment. So the first thing you're going to want to do to get started is you're going to want to make sure that you washed your hands and that they're nice and clean. That way you don't put any fuzzies into your work. Some people use gloves. I don't really like to use gloves when I do this because I have a hard time really shaping things correctly without getting the indents from the plastic on the gloves into my work. So you want to warm up the polymer clay and make it nice and malleable. So I'm going to just start doing this until it heats up, and then I'll start to apply a little bit of black and then a little bit of red, and just keep mixing until I get the right brown that I want. So this is pretty good now, so I'm going to add a little bit of black to that. And when you work with black too, you want to be careful because it sometimes can stick to your hands, and then you go and touch a color like white and you get the black residue into the color. So try to be careful. Sometimes you may want to wash your hands in between using black. Since I'm mixing it, I shouldn't have a problem though. I'm going to add a little red. So I'm starting to get a brown color now. And then I think I want to lighten it a bit too, so I'm going to add a little white to it. And then I'm going to kind of keep in mind what color I'm going to be using it with. So I'm going to look to see if I like those two colors together. So I think this is good. So now I'm going to roll out the middle of my flower. And then I'm going to stick it to the base right in the center. And I want it to stick out because I want it to have a 3D effect. So now that that's about center, I'm going to be using this tool, and this is going to add some texture into the center. If you don't have a tool like this, you can just use a toothpick as well. And then I like to get some, like really kind of stick it in there, get some more texture on there in certain areas. All right, so this is how it's looking so far. All right, so now I'm back with clean hands, free from any residue from the brown. And now I'm going to be starting to apply the pink. And so I'm gonna start just doing the same thing, kind of loosening it up, getting it warm. And then I'm going to start making individual petals. And then I'm going to start with my petals from behind and work my way up to the front. So there's going to be multiple layers. I think I'm just going to do 2 layers, maybe 3 of petals, depending on how it looks. And that way it's going to kind of create that 3D effect of a flower. All right, so now that I got this nice and warm, I'm going to roll it out because I want my petals to be similar in size. So I'm going to try to roll this really nice and even. And then I use my X-Acto knife to cut where I want this to end here. So I'm probably going to have my leaves about this size, or my petals, sorry. So I'm going to create a ball. And then I'm going to pinch one end, and that's going to be where it attaches. I'm going to do that for all of them. And some might end up being a little off in size, so you may want to redo a few, add a little bit more clay or a little less. Like the ends are always going to be a little bit smaller here, so I might have to add a tiny bit more clay to this. Or you can just flatten it out a little bit more. That one will be good. And then if you have a problem at all with the fingerprints in it, because you are going to probably have a little fingerprints in it, you can use rubbing alcohol and go over your piece when you're done, and you can get rid of those fingerprints. I don't really mind them in flowers. I like the texture of fingerprints on the flowers. I think it makes them look a little bit more realistic, but certain other polymer clay pieces you may want to be completely smooth, and so you can use rubbing alcohol to do that. You can just put that on a Q-tip and just rub it along the surface. Okay, so now that I got these petals, I'm going to see if I need to make any more of them. This might be enough. Right, let me redo this one really quick. Here we go. Okay, so I have this one, and it's got a pretty nice line on there that I can use to make the center of these petals. So I'm going to do a line down the middle. All right, so once you've done that, I'm going to pull them up, and I'm going to slightly bend at that crease. And then I'm going to attach it to the base. All right, now I'm going to need a few more petals here. I'm going to try to roll this back out the same exact size as my other petals. This one's a little too big. One, two. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with these. So here's what I have so far, and now I'm going to be working on the second layer of petals, and I'm going to be clearing up the colors on the left side that I don't need anymore. So the next layer of flower petals are going to be a lot smaller than the first layer, and they're going to go in between each petal that I already have. So I'm going to do the same process here. I'm going to get this clay all ready. And then when it's nice and heated up, I'm going to roll it out. But I'm going to roll it out thinner this time. They also make rolling pins for polymer clay. I have one. I don't usually use it for little things like this. So I'm going to start out with these 8 because I don't think I'm going to need all of them, but we'll see. Also, if you're curious where I've gotten my polymer clay, this was a beginner set on Amazon that I'm using right now, but I usually use Sculpey, so you can look that up online. It's one of the most popular brands. A lot of mine, I think, are the regular Sculpey 3. I also have Sculpey Souffle for things that I want to be a little bit more malleable. Alright, so now we're going to place these in between, and we're also going to give them a little bit of a, we're going to give them a little bit of a bend so that they stick out just like they would on a real flower. So hopefully once you've got this whole layer done, it will sort of cover any metal from the base that could be seen through. Some pieces that I do, I want to show the base. This one I use kind of more of a simple base because I didn't really want it to show, so it didn't really matter what was on it. Okay, so this is how it's looking so far. So I'm going to add a few more really small petals to the inside, and I'm going to make them really curly, and then it's going to be complete. If you're curious, I was introduced to polymer clay at Folsom Lake College. I took a metal design class. Professor Hart, she did an awesome job. I learned how to make all sorts of jewelry. Polymer clay was one of the things she showed us, and I just fell in love with it. And I continued it ever since then. So I would highly recommend taking that class if you're interested in jewelry making. And then once this is done, you're going to want to bake it. You can bake it in your oven at home. I know some people do that. I don't really like to do that because of the fumes. To me, I don't really want the fumes of plastic burning in my house. It doesn't smell very good, and I do believe that it is toxic. I know some polymer clay artists that have been doing this for years do it that way, but I would rather use a toaster oven outside. That way I'm not getting those fumes into my home, especially since I have animals too. So I've just always done it outside. One of the critiques for using a toaster oven, though, a lot of people think that it burns their pieces. I haven't really had much of an issue. I have burned pieces before. It's usually just because I was not watching them properly. So I've never really had a problem with using a toaster oven. I just bought one off of Amazon that I use only for this. That way I don't have to worry about cleaning it out in between using it for polymer clay and then using it for food. I don't use mine for food at all. If you're worried about your pieces burning, what you can do is create a hood with aluminum foil over top of your piece before you start baking it in your toaster oven. And that's something I read online. It seems to help. So that's something you can do if you're worried about that. I do it with every piece that I make in there, just to be cautious. I also will put this on wax paper before I put it in to start baking it. All right, so here is the finished product. And I bent the last row back a little bit so that they look more realistic. And then now I'm going to be putting down some wax paper and I'm going to be putting it in the toaster oven. Okay, so I've got it all ready to go. I put a little stone underneath it to keep it raised up a bit so that these petals will continue to kind of fall over the base. And so now it's ready, so I'm going to be putting it into the toaster oven. So I got my piece all ready to go, and so I've got the wax paper underneath, and then I'm going to be using this piece of foil to kind of create the hood that goes over it to hopefully keep it from burning at all. So I'm going to do that, just to make sure that it doesn't touch the foil, and then I'm going to set it to about 300. I usually do a little higher, but because of that backing that is the metal backing on there, it's going to cook this a lot faster. Oh, hold on, let me fix this. Get moved a little bit. Fix it before it gets too hot. There we go. Alright. So that metal backing is going to make this cook a whole lot faster than it normally would. So I'm going to want to set this for only a few minutes. I normally do most pieces for about 15 minutes, longer if they're larger pieces. But the first time I did this, I had burned it because I tried to use the timing that I normally do. And as it turns out, that metal in the back is going to make it cook way too fast to do that. Okay, so it's been 5 minutes, so I shut it off. And then I'm going to open it up and let that air come out of there.
And the reason why I do this outside, like I said, just standing right here, or sitting right here, it smells pretty bad. Alright, so we now have our finished product. And then the back is right here. I made sure that those two longer petals kind of went in between. That way it's easier for me to attach this, the little ring that I'm going to be putting on here. And you can see there's just going to be a tiny bit of difference in the color versus the baked and the unbaked. The unbaked is lighter colored. It's going to get a little bit darker. So now I'm going to attach the ring onto here, and then I'm going to put it on my necklace. So I'm going to take this ring and I'm going to bend it so that way I can get into it. So you want to get a little bit of an opening there. I have to bend it a tiny bit more to get it in there. Okay, so now that it's on there, I'm going to want to bend it back. It looks like I'm going to need these ones to help me here. Okay. Alright, so now that I have that on there, I'm going to take my necklace chain and we're just going to slide it on through. Depending on your petals, it may be a little more difficult to get this in if it's butting up against a petal, like mine is. There we go. All right, and here's your necklace. Okay. All right, so now that I have that on there, I'm going to take my necklace chain and we're just going to slide it on through. Depending on your petals, it may be a little more difficult to get this in if it's butting up against a petal, like mine is. There we go. All right, and here's your necklace. And here it is. All right, so I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. I hope you'll join me again next week where I'll be doing something else. If you have any suggestions, you can leave them in the comments. I'm thinking of maybe doing magnets next week if you'd be interested in that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you, if you had any polymer clay, you were able to do this with me, or I hope you might be inspired to go out and buy some and try it for yourself. They're really fun to do. I sell stuff like this online. I'll probably sell this one online. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's pretty simple and easy to do. And so I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.